I'm gonna check if it is or share. I don't see it on the website. Okay, it is there. Here we are live. So, okay. Hi everybody. Welcome. Let me see. I could take. Okay. Whenever he's ready, you can join us. Welcome, Kana. It's another Wednesday of Ollaa's guest weekly briefing. It's really good to have you. Hopefully, T will join us shortly as well. Today we are back on StreamYard, which means we are able to see your comments. So please feel free to write your comments. Continue, sharing our page for others to see. I want to divert, I want to divert our discussion because a lot of time we've been kind of talking a lot about what's going on, from around the world, from the U.S. government to Ethiopia. But I think there's one thing that kind of came to me was that we never really talk about the kind of reports, the atrocity that we publish on a weekly basis, because there's so much atrocity that's happening across Oromia that we take only few, and then we write about it and we publish, and we never really discuss that. And you are obviously behind the consistent information on that. So I think I want us to take today, talk about that. And I'm also interested to talk about the POWs, the OLA put out, and about ICRC, the International Red Cross, refusing to take them. The reason why it's important for me, it is because in 2020, last year, we reached out to several organizations, especially Ethiopian Red Cross, to assist the crisis that happening in Oromia, and they refused. And I think this is not the first time. It's not just actually it's them. There's a lot of time that Hey T, welcome. All right. I don't know if were you able to hear me in the background? You are okay. So I was just kind of saying like the topics that I would love for us to talk, and then you guys can add too. For me, one of the things, like, we do a lot of reporting on special human rights crisis. We take a few of them and cover about that. I want us to say a few things, but I'm also very interested to see OLA spokesperson put out Twitter yesterday that they want to turn over the POWs, or POW, right? But the Red Cross, the International Red Cross, refused to take them. And it's interesting to me because we have something similar last year with the Red Cross. They were too afraid to go to Oromia to assist, but they are fast to go to the other region. The same thing with the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. It took six months to go cover what the atrocity in Oromia, but it took no time when it comes to the Amhara region. And he obviously received some award from Germany. It's just so mind-blowing that the double standard that exists. But anyway, I want to also talk about that. Then also, I know Kana mentioned that we have Kana knows a lot more on this one. We have expert Australia, Europe, and the US side that we're doing advocacy. And how do people get involved in that? And then let's see what I say. Okay, I don't know. What do you guys have? Anything else on top of this that you guys want to add into it? But today we're back on StreamYard T, which means we can also see people's comments. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys want to jump on it. Kana, you want to go first? And
yeah, I would like to go first. First of all, I would like to tackle on the report we do on a weekly basis. Like you said, we receive a lot of human rights violation, enforced disappearance, extrajudicial killing, rape, tortures are those are the main topic that we receive on daily basis. Enforced disappearance, like currently there's kidnapping, daily kidnapping and enforced disappearance of young people. Uh, as you see, those are most of the serious one we write on, but we document mainly on those. And it is alarming to me because I daily receive data on that. That's alarming to me that I always get that big number. I just have small few to report on that. Yeah.
Kana, I think before I let you jump on, what I want you to actually say a little bit is that you take cases and you do investigation in it. And the reason why I'm saying this, I know we have a listener from different angle that listen to us. We have Oromos, but majority of our listeners are non-Oromos, or at least we have officials that listen to this our weekly conversation. We have the cases of rape of boys by Ethiopian security forces, and that rape was initially as I don't know if it's accusation, suspicious, or whatever. It was kind of stated by Amnesty International, and then the situation of young girls in prison. I mean, one of the things that I remember was from last year, the case of Rahima, who is a mother of two, was arrested in Bali Robe, and then there's like a case of other women that's facing. I don't know if you want to take any particular individuals that you want to talk about. It can be about the boys, or it can be about the four girls who are sentenced to 16 years in prison. And I will jump over to I think T to kind of say a few things about it. And the reason why I say again, it is that these stories, because I think there's this saying that T can help me here. It's like the days of one person is a tragedy. The days of thousand people is statistic. So it loses a value. And I think if we put like names and ages into this story, that maybe how the tragedy Oromo people face and have always faced under Ethiopia. And I would like to talk later on about the misguided policy of sometimes the U.S. government that trying to shortcut. As much as we are happy and absolutely support the executive order, but it lacks greatly I guess the foundation of the violence in Ethiopia. But go ahead, Kanan, and I'll give it to T.
Yeah, let me, for example, touch on the boys who are raped in the East Kuji zone around the Jidola district. What is the alarming is that the rate of ignorance by institutions in Ethiopia, like Ethiopia Human Rights Commission doesn't talk anything. Ethiopia, Justice Bureau doesn't say anything. I don't know why that. These issues these atrocities that happen to our young people that get any attention. I don't know, I haven't seen anyone, any institution condemning such atrocities, that and the level of even media coverage is not there. And that has always disturbed my mind. And you see, there should be individual responsibility on people who commit those police, those military personnel should be brought to justice. Those administrators should be brought to justice. And at least even those those girls who received those long sentences, someone should challenge that ruling in the higher courts. And I see that not happening, and that keep me, worrying that atrocities will keep continuing and people will keep silent, and the situation will just pass under the veil.
Okay, thank you, Kana. T, I'll go to you.
Yeah, let me
Yeah,
stop
he
it
went
there. Yeah,
his voice cut off, so I'll let him finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kana, please. You're on mute, Kana. You're on mute. I think he's having internet issue.
Mute. I don't know if you realize we can't hear you. There you go. Say something now. Okay.
Can you still hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It looked like he's having a technical difficulties. We can't hear you. Anytime your sound system starts working, you can chime in. I'll let you have the mic. But I just want to say a couple of things. It's very critical that we highlight these voices. At the very least, forget about justice, forget about uh, carrying out what's just and compensations or any of those things. I think the first thing we have to talk about is these stories, these tragedies have to be heard. We need to. It's very critical that we need them, identify them by names, identify them by regions, identify them how they face their fate. These are very critical for people to know uh, that they're not forgotten and that we see what's happening and we're not neglecting them. This is very critical that this happens. Now that I've said that, uh, I don't think the international community want to be silent on this topic. The Ethiopian government has done a very good job of stifling all kinds of communications, uh, shutting down any media that's reporting its crimes, its atrocities. Um, but we know there are a lot of crimes and atrocities happening because this international, including the Red Cross, this international humanitarian groups, are assisting people that are disabled because of the war or because of the atrocities, because of the extra judicial harassments and things of such sorts. We know there are people that are political detainees because there are thousands of detainees they're attending to. Um, However, they're afraid to report directly to this, to hold these criminals accountable. Uh, Maybe because they're afraid that they will not be able to continue to work in those areas and provide the service they're providing. I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt here. But however, not just Ollaa, but other organizations should get this report from Oromia, and maybe even throughout Ethiopia, and kind of showcasing it to the world so the world will see. We're not just talking about, like Sena said, these are people, these are kids. They have parents, brothers and sisters. They have souls. Like they're just like us, and they're facing this tragedy, and we need to know who they are. We need to report it. So it's I commend Allah for doing it, and we want other groups to do it also.
I agree. I want to jump in and say two things. I think we're facing two things, and I personally would love to talk about both in English and Afan Oromo because the challenges that we have, and I think Ken I can say a little bit more, is like we atrocities happens in Oromia on every second, not minutes. Somebody dies by Ethiopian security force for generation. That never got reported. That never got documented. And in part, obviously, we don't do a good job ourselves. And that's the part that I want us to talk about. I wish in a final Romo, I'm saying that it's just that like we people give us like the list of names. And it's like, okay, we need more than that. You cannot write story on just a list of names. You need to know who these people are. And the other side is the international community double standard. Like I don't hear anything in the case of Oromos. In the case of the atrocity when the Oromo dies, I mean, the Ethiopian institution is built on to make sure to keep Oromos down and invisible. The Ethiopian media, when hundreds of Oromo die, they don't see anything. There is no problem. But when they see a single person, an Amhara dies, and it is so bad to put it in that ethnic category, but it's not even just Oromos. When non-Amhara dies, non-Amhara, I think that's actually more accurate because the tragedy is not just Oromos. You have the Benishangul, you have the Somali region, Ogaden people, and you got like right now within even Amhara, the Command people who are facing genocide, in my opinion. And the Ethiopian media is, in a way, I feel like this is much progress because they used to operate under the name of Ethiopia, but now they operate, purely under the name of Amhara regional Amhara media. I think it's I don't know, but that's the thing. Is like that's the double standard of Oromo in Ethiopia that exists and fuels violence. In yesterday's hearing, I was listening to yesterday's hearing, conflict in Africa. So Ethiopia definitely got mentioned, but the role the U.S. government aid and the role the international, because US give nearly $1 billion in aid, and Europe gives over 1 point something billion a year. And this aid money accounts to 70 to 80% of the government's GDP, or I don't know, whatever their income they get. But none of those governments that receive so much aid are democratic. So the question that came on during the hearing was, is like, is the aid money fueling violence? And I really do think that the aid money is what's really perpetuating the anti-democratic system, because this aid money allows these dictator regimes to continue their oppression and the people against the people in Africa. And I think this, because like I am an American. I'm obviously very, very happy to be an American because I gained more by being here and as an American, and especially for as a woman. But the challenge is that, is this aid money is the source of the violence? Maybe this. I remember when I testified in Congress in 2017. One of the questions that came to me was, I don't know if they asked us live or maybe it was a follow-up, should the US stop aid money? I mean, and honestly, they claim the aid money goes to the people, but as you and I know, in Oromia, we just got a data, there are over 60 million people who are in almost famine-like condition. I don't see anybody talking about it. There was a violence, there was village burning by Amhara regional government in Wollo. The US aid visited Wollo 6 months after the violence, 6 months after the violence, but they are somehow able to go to Amhara region within few days to support them. So is the US aid money, is the European aid money is fueling the violence and oppressing the Africans, not just even Ethiopians, the African, as much as I'm a very obviously, we've been very, as Ollaa, we've been very supportive of every move the administration makes. We have individuals targeting the US government, individuals working with the European and now with Australian. So by no means I'm against it, but it is, I feel like this government, and democratic government, is supported and enabled by US, by countries like the US aid money. What do you think about that, T?
Well, Sena, first of all, make no mistake. When you say, in my opinion, it's genocide is going on, I think it's not, at this point, it's not just your opinion. I think it's a fact that in the Ethiopian state there are at least attempts of genocide, and we shouldn't take this lightly. This is a very serious matter, and even after the international community has been calling the Ethiopian government to stop this, and they're continuing to carry out this motion. So I just wanted to highlight that first. And second, I want to talk about the case in Oromia. And we're talking about things not being reported. Even worse, there's something even worse than that. Even worse than that is not only they're not reported. In some instances, they're trying to report it by I call them this revisionist history, where they're trying to change the actors. They want to make the victim, the perpetrator the victim, and they're trying to switch that role and write a revisionist history. And that's been happening in Oromia a lot. So it's worse than not being reported. It's being reported in a distorted way. So I just wanted to call attention to those 2 points. And then when we go to the aid money, I really don't understand quite fully how that works. However, I have my guesses as to our brother Kenna is having a hard time. Hopefully he can hear us now. I think my guess is the government has a lot to do with how those funds are distributed, and when they want to make it difficult to some areas, they could, and when they want to make it easy and facilitate those passages to some areas, they also could, and they're using this. We've seen the Ethiopian government use man-made famine as a tool for war. We've seen them use this communication disruption as a tool for war. We've seen them destroy hospitals as a tool for war. I mean, these are crimes. These are war crimes that the Ethiopian government has clearly, and the international community knows this, have committed. They've been blown up roads and dams and things and bridges. We've seen them when they left Mekelle, and the prime minister said this on national TV. One of the missions while we went to Mekelle is to make sure we distract the town enough so that it will be similar with other areas. And instead of using the same money, which he estimated to be in some billions, to bring the other areas up to that level. Uh, this is something that's said on the national TV, and I don't see enough outrage from the international community calling out this kind of crimes. The mission of the war is to go and distract the place so it would look like the other destitute areas of the country. This is just unheard of. So, uh, this aid money, if it's not managed right, if it's not facilitated right, yes, it's going to be a tool for repression. Yes, it's going to be a tool for distraction. Yes, it's going to be tool. It's going to be resources. Mismanaged resources are better not, better not to have the resources than having this mismanaged resources at times, because distraction, if funded, it can be very devastating. Make no mistake about that. So, Ken, if you heard the topic, really, we wanted to know if this aid money that African countries, not just Ethiopia, but receiving, is it distractive?
You know, what I want to see is, I think actually you only need yourself.
He's having a hard time with his system, his network.
Yes, Kanas definitely have an internet problem. But what I was gonna say is, T, I think I've joined us from your phone on this time. But I think from moving forward, instead of making this more like an interview, I want us to make it more like a conversation where you jump in while I'm talking and Kana jumps in. But I wanted to say something on what you say, T. The days of the Oromo people, I feel like, and actually I need to really learn my language of using the southern people, because it's not just the Oromos, it is the Somalis, it is especially Benishangul Gumuz, it's the Gambela, it's the southern Ethiopia, it's the perception that the West doesn't want to really can care less about the South, and that's the truth. And it feels like in the South are kept. But you know what I'm saying? I said the Sadako always go there. But I want to say comment on the southern people, the Oromo people, and three things. First, it's a tragedy they get murdered, they get killed. The second tragedy is that it doesn't get reported. Nobody hears about. They are less than animal. You know what I'm saying? That is what fuels a lot of us. I feel like that. You know what? You want to burn Ethiopia? Obviously, I believe in nonviolence, and I say that all the time. We want the democracy, we want violence. You want to burn Ethiopia? I mean, as far as I see, I'm already living in burned country, so why not burn it so let everybody feels? And then you have the international community sometimes get outraged, just like, violence is perpetuated as, these people are radical. No, you created that condition. You allowed that condition by giving aid money in a lot of those countries. I think so the first death is they got murdered. The second one is the silence that nobody recognized. And the third, I think the third death is, T, what you said is that they use, the perpetrator becomes the victim. They kill Oromo people, they kill other southern nationality, and then they go to advocacy. It's like, look what the Oromos did, look what the OLA did, look what the Benishangul Gumuz administration or the Command people did. They do, but then the Amhara regional government comes on a media, perpetuate and tells women, let's get rid of Command people in 24 hours. I don't see international community outrage because they do have intelligence. They have people at each embassy that translate that. But if a command person, if an Oromo person, let's wipe out the however million Amharas that's in Oromia, occupying, and or perpetuating this violence, I've never heard any Oromo. In fact, even OLA, the one that's armed struggle for Oromo, is protecting civilians, including Amharas in Oromia. And I don't see them getting applauded for the protection of the Amharas. You know what I'm saying? I don't see them, they being encouraged for their non-violence. But when Amhara regional government openly on the media calls and anybody kill in 24 hours, let's wipe out the people of command, so to create the peace, and it's just the double standard that is, I think, it's a huge tragedy, and I think that's the angle that we have to push. We obviously think that our administration is on the right path, but nevertheless, the executive order, and we're speaking about this for us, is we've relay this information internally, but we're also saying, express this externally, that we're talking to with these people that there's a limit that you can get quiet and when Oromos make 60% of Ethiopian population, when the southern people account to, I don't know, maybe 70 to 80% of the whole population, and somehow miraculously you ignore the southern people and you expect some like, why is Ethiopia not stable? Ethiopia can never be stable. In fact, Horn of Africa can never be stable for as long as the southern people are prosecuted, when there's billions of dollars that goes to Ethiopia that's enabled the genocidal regime that to continue ethnic cleansing for generation. Is this now it happened because of the northern part of the people, the Tigray people are facing this genocide. That's the only reason the international community is talking about it. If this genocide had happened to the Gumuz, if this genocide had happened to the Somalis, who are also about the same number as in terms of population as the Tigray, nobody even cares. If the 7 or 6 million Somalis get wiped out from Ethiopia, I really don't think the international community would care to speak. And that's I think the tragedy of a lot of African leaders. Kana, I don't know if your internet is stable. Please jump in to say anything. Don't wait for me. That's the agreement we have.
Yeah, I'm not giving. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yeah, we can hear you, and jump in anytime because we don't know when we're gonna lose you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like before you guys lost me, I was saying I don't know why no one is speaking about the issues that happen. No one is talking about those, evil rape and of young people. Those sentences, no one is challenging. No organization is speaking. People are left in marginalization. The sites, the Oromos, and as long as they're alive, they are still marginalized in terms of politics, economy, and social way of life. And that is the tragedy of Africa. It's called the tragedy of colonialism.
Yeah, we lost you again, but yeah, I agree. And a couple of things that I want to say, especially I want to hold us accountable. I want to hold me accountable. Some of the things that as Oromos we don't do is, for example, when a high official, an advisor to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, uh, goes on national TV and speaks a language that's inciting genocide, but he does it in Amharic or a local language that the international community don't understand. I know maybe officials and people that work in that area could get that translation by from their you know their staff and things of that sort. But what we want or what we need is that we want the public to know this stuff. We want the public to hear what this high officials, high advisors are saying that are inciting genocide. And we know people are acting upon it because we see the results of those talks. We need to be able to translate those every single time they come out and share with the public. Let the public hear it with for themselves and be the judge. I think that's one. And the second one is really the pro-government forces are trying to mischaracterize our positions. Our positions is not one of destruction. Oh, when they say Ethiopia at Farsim or Ethiopian in Jigdu or Ethiopia will prevail or and things of that sort, they're trying to paint us as a destructive force. No, we are pro equality, we are pro democracy, we are pro self determination, we are pro equal representation in the political, economic, and all other realms of the country. And those positions should not be interpreted as a distractive force because we're not a distractive force. That's what I wanted to highlight, Sena and Ken. I don't know if Kana can hear me, but he can hear me. Good.
Yeah,
Great.
I can take you in well.
Go ahead, Kana. We are almost at the time too, but go ahead and add whatever you want to add. And I think T, if you wanna,
Yeah,
go ahead, Kana.
yeah, exactly. That the Red Cross or the International Committee of Red Cross is one of the credible organizations that is cited in the Common Article 3 of Geneva Convention. They have, they have responsibility of receiving, prisoners of the war whenever any party to the conflict invite them. Uh, they should, willing and even the law even allow them to go and visit them to see their well-being, and receiving them and handing over them back is one of the critical responsibilities. And that is even cited in under the Common Article 3 of the Geneva Convention on Humanitarian Laws, and it is surprising that Red Cross even refusing to
Very
take
surprising.
prisoners of war. I don't know what's happening because if that organization itself refused, which other
Okay,
organization that has
I think you have to mute yourself because there's echo. There's
I can clearly hear him because
no, the problem is from you. Mute yourself. There's echo.
oh
Yes, because when you talk, you can unmute it. But if when we talk, there's echo. But let Kana say, and then I think and then you can unmute. And I would love to say that again. Add on that, and then because that's what we call complicit, intentional complicit. Kana, go ahead, please, for it.
Yeah, what I was saying is that Red Cross is the only, organization that is even cited under the common article that of Geneva Convention. There is this, this Geneva Convention that is specifically dealing with prisoners of the war. As long as they are no longer combatant, the law allow them to be, fed, treated well, and cared for. And Red Cross has obligation to visit the prison of the war. They have obligation to and receive them from the other parties, like parties to the war, like Ollaa and non-international group that is currently contributing, fighting with the government. And whenever they have prison of the war and they write to Red Cross, they should go and visit them, receive them, hand over them to their families, and if they require medical care and support, no, it is surprising, and it's so surprising and so bad that Red Cross, International Red Cross, currently declined to go to, to decline Ollaa's invitation, and refusing to cater or visit even the prison of the war and mandates. And I don't know whether they have given any reason on that.
they haven't given any reason, but I've heard some people say that the Ethiopian government has something to do with that disruption of movement by the ICRC from going to Ollaa and receiving those POWs. But like you said, it's more than surprised. It's shocking to me that it's actually a good news that Ollaa is handing over these POWs, because we've seen the Ethiopian government do the opposite. Either POWs are not treated humanely, or they are, or some of them are killed. We've seen them being killed on cliffs and thrown down by the Ethiopian government. And this is a good, change of scenery for Ollaa, providing these POWs to the ICRC and saying, come get these POWs as you should. And I want to give credit to the International Committee of Red Cross for the other works they've been doing around in the country. They've been visiting prisoners. I think they've visited over 40,000 prisoners in the last 8-9 months. They've been providing rehabilitation for those disabled ones. They've been providing seeds, fertilizers, household items. I mean, they've done a lot of things, and their work there also highlights the problem. And I like that, the fact that them doing this, if they're giving to 2 million internally displaced population, we know there are 2 million internally displaced population. If they're visiting 40,000 political prisoners, we know there are 40,000. So the way we know these things are happening, these are facts, is because they're providing this assistance. So this is a double whammy for me. They're now providing assistance, which are really good for the people. Two, by providing this assistance, they're letting us know the problem exists that the Ethiopian government has been denying. It's true, the problem exists. But however, it's still shocking, and I still want to hold them accountable. And actually, I want to call the international community to pressure the Ethiopian government to allow, if that's what is hindering this process, to allow this prisoner of war to be returned and be treated the way prisoner of war is supposed to be treated according to the conventions that are in place, internationally been accepted for many years now. So it's very shocking, very surprising. Correct.
Um, Mute yourself, T. Okay, thank you. I am really enjoying myself about this topic, so we're gonna go way over it, and I'll take maybe 10 more minutes and talk about it. First and foremost, for audience, I would say that obviously we are very, very engaged from Europe to America and now to Australia. Ollaa officially have brought in an expert who have a very in knowledge of Australian system or Australian Parliament government. So we are really obviously excited, and also, and I want to take this chance to thank a couple of people who applied from Australia to be a volunteer with this young woman. So that's very exciting. There's a lot of good things happening, and yes, definitely. I think maybe one of our future conversation will bring our experts based on the region, from Europe, how are they working with the parliament, and they'll bring some from Australia and bring another young lady from America if they feel confident. These are all NaNoWriMo young women, very
Great
young.
idea. Great.
No, I think that will excite people. But here's what I want to ask T. I think, you know, we obviously talk this because it's time to really talk openly, and we do know our audience are predominantly, I guess, the people that they need to hear that. Is the aid money, it's like the American healthcare situation where the doctor prescribe addictive medicine on purpose to continue selling because of the deal they have with the drug company. Because the more they prescribe, the more that person gets, the more they make money. It is the aid money that's being used, not just even Ethiopia, in Africa, the same thing, because there's so much aid. Let's give aid. Let's give where is this aid money going? Because I am told from the inside people who work from World Vision to UN office, they know that human rights violence is happening across the country, but they don't want to speak anything but the one in the Tigray area. So, and then there's a billions, Italia gave $400,000 for election, for a sham election. Maybe all these foreign people who are in Africa, maybe the aid really need to be cut. And because this is so important, because it's propagating, it's like recycle. There's more money continue because the government have to keep the peace. The government, have to make sure these radicals don't come, create more violence. But the government is the radical. The radical is the aid money is what fuels the violence in Africa. And I don't know much about the Middle East. I don't focus in that. It's the case of a lot of African countries. If you look at the Horn, you can take Somalia. Somalia is, they have their own unique problem, where there is clearly on ethnic line, and because it's not like religious war, because all of the Somalians are, as far as I know, it's one ethnic and one religion, and there is no peace. But in the rest of the country, you can take the Sudan, you can take other places, it's very diverse. So is aid money is like the American healthcare system. The more they prescribe, the more money the drug company makes, the more the doctor prescribe. So it's like, because yesterday's hearing, one of the questions that was asked by the Congress woman was that how can the U.S. assist? And the response was like, I think, and I'm not saying that's probably not true, is to give earmarked money to continue doing the good job they do. For me, is that what about the almost $1 billion that is given? How many percent of them actually want? Because the government uses personally to buy a political vote through those aid. We know that because we are from there. But and the U.S. have I guess one of the upside of having immigrants is that we bring a direct voice of the people. But then you have the USAID and lots of international organizations that continue to fund those radical groups, those radical medias and organization that is biased, that is such as the election board, as well as the Human Rights Commission board, that is very unitary, which is they have linked the same thing with the current political party or the PP party, and then somehow it is like putting a lipstick on a pig's mouth. It's like making it look appear as independent when they know it's not. And they know, and it's so frustrating. Violence is being. I think the question for me is that: so should we protest or should we demand this aid money stop? Maybe what we need to do, and this is just something that came to my mind, and maybe we're supposed to have a guest on this show, and we're going to probably have a next one. Should Africa not just Ethiopia, shows the thousand people of Ethiopia. Obviously, we work with the Somalis, we work with our brothers. Somalis are very close, Benishangul Gumuz, Kmant, Agwona, and a lot of people we work with who make, if you take the Tagaru people, the people who are left is probably like 15% of Ethiopian population. If you take Ago and Gemant from the Amhara region, Amharas who are creating this toxic violence, genocide, make less than 10% of the population. That is at the best. A majority of them reside in Oromia and suck the blood out of the Oromo and suck the blood out of the other southern region. And they are the wealthiest and fund this media and fund this violence. So maybe is it time that we, the people, demand this aid money stop? And this is something just came to my mind. Like maybe our question needs to be phrased in that way. This aid money is indirectly, because I don't see a lot of people receiving the US aid. Like I say, when it comes to, we did a special case on Wallo area. We follow Wallo very closely from the beginning. We met with the different offices on the case of Wallo. We have endless documentation of on Wallo. And the US aid visited Wallo for the first time in August, 6 months after the violence happened. But so maybe our demand should be there. And then Kado Borusa say, okay, thank you so much. If you guys have a question, and I think this is, I don't know, Kana, feel free to jump on it and then we can give it to T.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing, that many governments in Africa now use terrorism as the, terrorism as a fight. Like, for example, Ollaa is the government, because they are combatant, and making them, terrorism, and then as labeling it as a terrorist organization, make them not, contact with other humanitarian organization. And I was just feeling about why maybe the Red Cross was unable to go there, because whenever you visit such many for the officers who go and visit, will receive prisoners of war from them. Yeah, that's just my point, which I was thinking about it.
Okay, thank you. T, you're up.
Yeah, so one thing is for sure, money talks, right? Corruption is everywhere. I'm sad to say, is corruption even worse in African countries, but also here in the U.S. We've seen, especially in the last 4 or 5 years of our politics, we've seen how people will do anything for that green paper. People will do anything for money. So I don't fully understand how the money plays in part, in aid money plays part, but I'm sure most of the corruption is tied to a lot of the land grab. Talk about this government officials having wealth outside of the country. That money has to come from somewhere. How that is all tied, I'm not quite sure. I have my guesses, but I'm not going to speculate this or on this platform right now. But now, all they have to do is, successive government have done the same thing. Like Kanna said, you just label somebody a terrorist, and you don't even know. Take Paul Rusesabagina from the Rwanda genocide. For 2 decades, since 1994, he was taken as a hero that has saved so many countless lives. And now he's a terrorist. I mean, labeled a terrorist. I don't even know what to believe. For over 2+ decades, we celebrated him as a hero. There's a very famous movie, I'm sure most of you have watched it, called Hotel Rwanda. He was portrayed as a hero. And now we start hearing in September of 2021 that since he's not pro-government, is now a terrorist. So how this labeling works, how this money is tied to this terrorist labeling, how these funds are dispersed, I really don't understand it fully. Maybe I can prepare this for maybe the future dates, but certainly money plays a great role into into all these atrocities. Somebody's providing the guns. Somebody's making money. Every war, somebody stands to benefit from the war because somebody's selling the weapons. Somebody's making these grenades and selling them. Somebody's making this fighter jets. Somebody's making this uniforms. Somebody's making this boots. Somebody's benefiting from war. So of course, those that benefit from war might put more fuel to the fire. So how all that works, maybe I'll be more articulate about this topic if I prepare for maybe our future discussions. Very important discussions. Follow the money. They say follow the money
Yeah.
for a reason. If you follow the money, you always find why what's happening is happening. Why are this prisoner of war are not returned? Why is somebody getting on power and not relinquishing their power? They just want to stay in power. Why is a foreign country like India and China have taken over all the industries, agricultural industry in the country? Why are the higher officials in Ethiopia have their families living lavish and outside of the country? Why? If you follow the money, you can answer. You can get answers to all those why questions. Maybe we can attempt to answer on the next. I can prepare something maybe in the future. In the future, I don't fully understand it, but it has. To, if I follow the money, I can find the beast.
Okay. Okay, I will say for a few things, and then we have to wrap up because we went over the 10 minutes we say. First is like what you say. It's so like the Kagame, the Rwanda, and this guy who the whole was celebrating now, all of a sudden, 1995, what, 25 years, 27 years later, and now, oh wow, he's tried and found that to be the perpetuator. And nobody's saying. And then there's still millions of dollars that government still received. There's millions of the corporate army have single-handedly control and oppress the people of Rwanda. I don't care how peaceful Rwanda might look. And he continue to receive millions of dollars in aid while our government here in the US is talking about like, how do we, what we need to do. What we need to do is we really need to follow the money, like you say. And this is not just even in Rwanda. Look at DRC. I mean, if you look at the case of the DRC is one of the richest country in the whole planet, but they've been in a stable country. They've never had any democracy because you have people who are stealing the blood diamond every year, making billions of dollars. It's better for them. It's cheaper if they don't have a government. And I think that's so good. I think one of the questions that our audience ask here is that who are your audience? And I want to answer that. And I want to ask to finish it. The next part of, I think, conversation next time, we need to talk about is the reporting. We talked very greatly about how the lack of the shortcoming, the gap between the international community and how the aid money is used. I think we did a decent job of talking. But what about the Oromo side? You know what I'm saying? The fact that we, as an organization, still struggle, there is no data that comes out from Oromia. OSG does a fantastic job. The only organization I feel like that do a very good job of documentation. Outside of that, OSG, they have a very, very great network focused in the western part of Oromia. There's so much more atrocity happening in the southern part of Oromia that never makes it to the news, even to Oromos, let alone. So how are we as, there's a lot of people right now still listening to this. How are we going to cry when we do nothing? Yes, I am obviously talking about it. And the question of who's our audience. So just so, our listener, our audiences, we know very well, are both Oromos and non-Oromos. There are policymakers, individuals that listen to our weekly broadcast. So this is targeted to everybody. That we are obviously an advocacy organization that have thousands of people and influence millions of voices. So the topics we're discussing here is meant for all of that, for the policy as well as for just awareness purposes. And so to go back to the Oromo thing, and Kana can even speak this a little bit more if you want now or later on, is that how we struggling to get the data. Oromo people, we're so good at coming on Facebook, say like, oh, 10 people died. Did you guys know 10 people I remember a phone call about a month ago, I think in August, the government killed 10 young men in Asala, Robe, and we couldn't even get the information. We couldn't even get their full name. We couldn't even get their age. We couldn't even get anything. But there are some dead 10 people. It's like it's only a number. But so I think the next part we're gonna have to talk in Afan Oromo, because this part is targeted to Oromo. And instead of just us also crying that we need to do our part, there are Oromos on the ground. There are Oromos that work in a lot of agency. They work in World Vision. They work in the UN. They work in many positions. They have the information they could share with us. What we can do is we can use it for our own advocacy. And then when we publish information, they can use our report for their own advocacy when they do advocacy, whatever you do. So that way our voices get heard from the ground all the way to the top. We don't do our part. Our community, what I see is that we love crying. We love to come for rally one day when it's comfortable. And I think I feel much more comfortable talking that part in Afan Oromo. We're talking for an hour. I don't know, Kana. Go ahead.
Yeah, before Kana says, I just want to make sure one thing is very clear. We know this. It's a fact that we can't dispute, is the fact that historically, not just with this administration, but prior administrations, that developmental aid money has ignored or overlooked political repression, marginalization, violence, harassments, injustices. I mean, we've seen this. This is no doubt that aid money has overlooked this in the past and is still doing this. So this is the point that we cannot dispute. This is a fact. I just wanted to add that before I give it to Kenna.
Yeah, I hope you can still hear me well. Yeah. Wannan jechuu barbaade akkuma adde seenaan itti namni keenya hedduun Facebook irratti ni iyyaa ni bo'aa ammoo data hin qabu. Namni tokko yoo ajjeefamu namummaa isaa kabajamuu qaba. Namummaan nam suni kabajamuu qabdi. Namummaa eessatti akka du'ee maqaan isaa eenyu naannoo kam maaluuf reebame dhimmi isaa reebameef ni dhaaname ni tumame moo hidhame moo ni ajjeefame eessatti ajjeefame naannoo kamitti akka ajjeefame maaliif ajjeefame qorannoo kana oromummaa irra kaate godhuu qabda. Itti yaaluu qabda. Information kan yoo hin qabaatiin waa'ee mirga dhala namaa falmuun ni ulfaata. Baay'ee nutti ulfaata. Kanaafuu namni keenyini akkuma Oromoon 50 million and above namni jiru. Ripoortii reefu egaa ripoortii Addis Standard dubbistoko namni beelaan du'ee jedhamee dhoofamee ture. Oromumatti dhim kan dhoos. Ogaa namni beelaan du'u dhoosuun baay'ee rakkisaadha. Akkasumas ogaa namni harka namaatiin harka mootummaatiin ijjeefamnaan harka warra biraa kan hidhatuun ijjeefamnaan dhoofamuu hin qabu. Namummaa isaa namni ajjeefamuu hin qabu. Mirgi isaa kabajamuuf qaba. Ammoo data kan yoo hin qabaatiin maqaan namaa iddoo inni itti ijjeefamu gandi kamiin dhaqqinee dhufu urmiin isaa maaltu irra dhaqabedhanii yoo information kan argatanii isanii birmachuu yookaan isanii dubbachuun hin danda'amu ni ulfaata. Kanaafuu namni Oromoo kan caqaftan data sun data nama ijjeefame nama reebame nama hidhame yoo qabaatan dhaabbat kana yookaan advocacy karaa adde seenaatiin yoo karaa email kennaatiin nuun dhaqqaba akkasii mirkeessanillee sanii falmuu dandeennaa jedha.
I think kanarratti I'll take a daqiiqaa murtaa'e fudhadheen illee kan itti dha'ee jiru kan amma kennaan tiyatillee itti dhaatee jedhama. Akka ollatti we did a fantastic job targeted America, Europe, Australia jennee garee adda addaa tiima bakka maraafiyyuu tiimatu dalaga. Kan Europe illee ijoollee gara sadiiti, kan America ijoollee hedduudha, kan Australia amma ijoollee baalantiriitti dhufaa jira. So waa hedduu waa gaarii goone. Chaalenjiin amma nu keessa jiru Oromoon maaf dhagahamuu dhabdee kan jedhu yeroo baay'ee namni kennan gaafata. Miidiyaa hedduu irratti waan deemee jedhu gaafii kana gaafatamee jira. Kanarratti kaanaanii directly waa'ee lafaa dhufuu irratti dalagaa jira. Yeroo baay'ee baay'inni keessanii sababaan afaan Oromoo dubbataa jirruu fi dhimmi kun asirratti komentii keessanii ilaala. Komentii namoota garii ifa manaagati komentii horii fakkaata. Ifa manaagati because just komentii waa'ee constructive criticism dhiisaniitiin komentii akka gati sammuu horii waan deemanii fi sammuu komantii akkasii dhiisanii jedhanii so kanaafiyyuu asirratti akka taphatan afaan Oromoo waan ta'eef so hin dhageettan jedhee isinii gala jechuudha. Isinitti deebinee yoo jennu abbaan iyyuu ollaan namaa bahaa jedhan. So waan tokko yoo nuuf kennitan dhaaba feetaniif iyyuu kenna. Dhaaba feetaniif iyyuu kennaati yoo akkas gootanii jettanii isinii akka ilaalcha kiyyaatti dhageettii uummata keenyaa taana. Tokko uummanni lafa jiru Facebook irratti kasii galee namni haganaa du'e jettan kana barreessaa gaafii 7tu jira ka deebi'uu qabu achi booda riippoortii goona. Maybe isinitti mul'atu malee riippoortii kannaan ka beeku jechuudha. Riippoortii kannaan guuree afaan Oromootiin afaan Ingiliffa jijjiiree jedhu toorri Ameerikaa illee fuutee Ameerikaa bira geessiti. Kawra Europe illee Europe bira geessiti. Kawra Australia illee Australia bira geessiti jechuudha. Garuu lafarraa wanti dhufu yoo hin jiraanne wanta akka hin jiru. Amma for example Europe irratti ji'a Oktoobarii kana keessa waanti dalagamaa jira. Dhiibutu jira, waa'ee Tigreera fookasiitu jira, waa'ee Tigree kana irratti akkamitti Oromoon dubbata kam jedhu. Kanaafuu bakki keessan information kana irratti barbaachisaadha. As dhuftanii namoota 100tu showii kana kenna Wednesday kana every week nama 5,000 ilaalee jira. 5,000 keessaa namnummaan 100 qofti otoo riippoortii yookiin namnummaa 5 qofti yoo riippoortii nu kennitanii jettanii uummata keessaniif sagalee taatan, ganda keessaniif sagalee taatan. Even yoo isin ganda sanillee hin jiraatin mee fuudhaatiin gaaffileen gaafanne kenniini maatii keessanii ergaa jedha, ollaa keessanii ergaa jedha, namoota hidhame, namoota madaahe, namoota du'e kana akkas wanna biraa dadhabne akka tii duratti dubbatee jedhe seenaa galmeedhaaf kennee jennaa nuuf godha of qarqaara nuuf jettanii otoo jettanii of nu qarqaara because kannaanis anis kana dalagee dhiisee fi mindaan naaf kafalamu yookiin irraa gadi bu'u tokko hin jiru. So ofiif jettanii akka ilaalcha kiyyaatitti wanna kanarratti gaaffii kana asirratti poosti ta'ee jira. Gaaffii kana torban kana deebiin nu ergaan jedha. Warroota kaawwaniif ammoo dhaamsa godhu Oromoo hedduutu nu jala buutanii gaaffii galatoomaa jettanii nuuf ergitanii waan godhaa jirtan nu gammachiistanii ka jettan. Oromoo hedduutu World Vision keessa dalagaa, Red Cross keessa dalagaa, UN keessa dalagaa. Yes, akka naafxanyoota illee baay'atu dhabaatti Oromoon jetta. Achi keessa teettanii uummata keessanii sagalee ta'uu hin dandeettan. Because akkuma beektanii mootummaan maal godhaa information kana doonariidhaaf jecha ni baasu. Because dalagaa mul'isuuf jecha information kun ammoo miidiyaan dhaqqabu akkuma beektan. Achuma keessa gadi qaqqabanii dhidhiisanii jedhan. Isin ammoo yoo nuuf kennitanii nuti itti fayyadamnee advocacy irra oolchine jenna. So at least wanni biraa yaafee jedhee warri UN keessa dalagan. UN keessa Oromoo hedduutu jira. Asteetanii gara isin gubatee nutti qofa hin laalina akka sagalee uummata keenya haa ta'u jedhu. Because balleessaan kaama daqiiqaa 45 itti haasofnee jedhee hanqina qarqaarsi addunyaa kun Afrikaa irratti miidhaa jiru dubbannee jenne. Why? Because as keessatti nu ilaalaa jiru warri mootummaa Ameerikaa illee akka nu ilaalu waan beeknuuf waan nutti himanii fi dhaamsi kun jaraaf deemaa jechuudha. Amma isiniif ammoo kamaatii qabdan, ka fira qabdan, ka dhaabbotii kanneen keessatti dalagdan, ka information akka namni keenya beelarra jiru. Miliyoona 16 jedhan over 16 million Oromoo keessatti beelaan du'aa jiru. Garuu mee ka dubbatan dhageettanii jirtani because quba hin qaban nuti iyyuu quba hin qabnu dhaaba OSG haa galatamu walgahii Oromoo Relief Association irraa dhaga'ee jedheetiin information nu kenne data san eegutti jira jechuudha. Gaafa data argannee jennee publish goone Facebook irratti eegnu garaagarummaa ollaatii fi dhaabbota keenya baay'inni yeroo baay'ee Facebook irratti baasnee eegnu. No, that's why we have targeted people dalagaa information baasnu kana mootummaa Ameerikaa bira geessee jedha, mootummaa Europe bira geessee jedha. Yoo jirri dadhabina keenya laafinsa keenyaaf gurraa fi ija qabatanii jiran. Oromiyaan nuuf yoo hin ta'in gubattee haa jettu, Itoophiyaan gubattee haa jettu. Kana ammoo sigalee as biyya alaa teenyee nu dallabnee otoo hin ta'in ilmi Oromoo akka biyya keessa jiru of bilisoomsu yoo hin barbaadin gabrummaa jaalatee jira jechuudha. Yoo cal'istanii sodaatan maali warri Tigree dhiira ta'eetiin kun dhiira ta'uu dhabe? Amiin uummanni Tigree sheekni jira, paastoriin jira hin dubbata jenosaayidii. Kan Oromiyaa irra jiru inni dubbataa jira. Beekaan Oromoo fiigduun Oromoo kan miidiyaa irra deemtu meeqatu dubbataa jira? Amin mallaqa xiqqootti kennanii jennaan xiqqoo asitti kennan lafuma abbaa isaatti kennanii jennaan beekamee sabboona waggaa 40 qabsoo kan irra ture dhagalee mootummaa nama nyaataa jiru ajjeesaa jiru kana godhaan jiru. So rakkoon guddaan keessa jira. Kanaafiyyuun jedha. I think commentii barreessaa tokko nan dubbisee jedhaachi I'll give a chance kanarratti afaan Oromootiin.
Yaa kan jechuun fedhu warri odeeffannoo qabdanii akkuma amma dubbatame warri odeeffannoo qabdanii warra informationii kana guutummaatti qabdanii page keenya advocacy.ollaa.org geemtanii advocacy.ollaa.org dhattanii resource kan jedhu irratti buutanii human right archive kan jedhu jira achi keessa galtanii nama miidhame nama hidhame nama ajjeefame beektu taanaan information hundumaa qabdu taanaan akkuma amma seenaan jette gaaffii adda addaa jira eeyootu ajjeefame maqaan eeyoodha umuriin meeqadha saalli isaa maayinni akkamitti ajjeefame kan jedhu hundumaa compile gootanii achirratti odeeffannoo dhiyeessuu dandeessu gadi ta'ee fi resources sana yuuzii godhaati isin immoo akkasitti dhiyeessaa riippoortii immoo nuun compile goone akkuma amma seenaan jettee mootummaatti adda addaatti kan ergamu ta'a gadi ta'ee fi wanti kun immoo qabatamaadhaan waan akkasitti gaafa gashinu sagaleen keenyas ni guddata akkuma warri gara north jiran kun akka dhaggeeffata baay'ee qabanii nunis akkasuma namni dhaggeeffatu ni jiraata jechuudha. So keessumaa warri biyya keessa jirtanii warri odeeffannoo kana qabdanii yoo achillee websaayitii irra akkas galtanii gochuu dadhabdan illee odeeffannoo kana sassaabaatiin nama ala jirutti dabarsaa namni ala jiru immoo information kana hundumaa arkaayivii kana irratti guutee riippoortii gaarii gadi baasuu dandeenya kan jedhu itti dabaluun barbaada. Kanumadha advocacy.ollaa.org jettanii galuu dandeessu jechuudha.
Galatoomiti, I think Ollaa.org illee deemtanii advocacy yoo jettanii achi isin keessee jedha. Galatoom, that's very good. Ollaa.org deemtanii advocacy irra gootanii websaayitii kan irra isin keessee archiving keenya achirra jira jechuudha. Barreessaa Ambaasaa maal jedhee barreessaa Ambaasaa maal jedhee galatoomaa waan godhaa jirtanii dhimma Matakkal irra dubbadhaa jedhee. Torbaan dhuftu keessuma takkaarra kan dhuftu torbaanitti jijjiirre jennee isiin isa irratti Ollaa wajjin kan dalagaa jirtu waa'ee Matakkal irra dalagaa jirti. Waan isin ajaa'ibsiisu barreessaa waan ati dubbattee fi Matakkal waan kaaseef itti himaa jira jechuudha. Hedduu galatoomii. Matakkal irratti mucayyoon takka kan wajjin dalaga jettee waadaa seente Matakkal irra fookasii qabdi. Advocacy warra Matakkal wajjin dalagdi jechuudha. Takka ammoo as Minnesota akkana jirti maqaa namaa waamuu hin dandeenyu ammaa fi torbee dhuftu oosiin dhuftee jettee isiin dubbattee jettee yaada qabna. Minnesota waa'ee warra Yemen irraa dubbataa jirti jechuudha. Kapaasitiin keenya guddaa waan hin taane humna guddaa waan hin qabnee fi namoonni target even Oromoo keessa iyyuu beektan walgeen namni dhimma Matakkal irratti fookas godhu teessoo keenya yoo hin taane every week gareen advocacy every week walgaheetiin ajandaa baafatee jedha Ollaa irratti jechuudha. Ajandaa kana baafatee eenyutu riippoortii kamtu dhufaa jira, Yurooppii maal jedhaa jira, hiiringiitu jira moo rezoluushinatu dhufaa jira, Ameerikaan maal jedhaa jirti, Awustiraaliyaan maal jedhaa jirti kan jedhu walgeennee every wixata haasofnaa jechuudha. Ji'atti al takkitti ammoo walitti dhufneetiin ji'a dabre maal goone, ji'a dhuftu ammoo kaayyoon keenya maal ka jedhu akka Ollaatti mari'annaa jechuudha. Kanarratti namni Matakkalii fi quuqamu yoo hin jiraatin namni Walloof quuqamu yoo hin jiraatin in dagatama even nu keessattuu hin dagatamee jira because rakkoon Oromoo hedduu bal'aadha humna akkasii waan hin qabneef isiniin jedha barasaa isin jedhaa jira. Injaa mucayyoontu wanta rakkatte keessaa deetaa sirrii guutuu ta'uu qaba. Matakkal namni Oromoo du'e Matakkal akkanatti dhumne mee Matakkal liistii gadi baasa maqaa eenyutu du'e eessatti du'e yoom du'e nama umrii meeqaati kana ka jedhu iyyuu hin jiru. Atillee Matakkal jetta mucayyoon Matakkal irra fookas gootu ni jirti. Advocacy Matakkal irra dalagaa jirullee wayiillee ni jira because achirra hirmaannee mucayyoo tanaanii fookasiin isii information kana yoo nuu kennitee jette achirratti nuti riippoortii bareedaa riippoortii guutuu ta'e baasnee hin dhiisnu baasneetiin mootummaatti kennina keessi Wallootti fayyadamee isiniin jenna. Expertii wanti guddaan tokko goone yoo jiraate waa'ee Walloo irratti akka dhageettii godhatu because Walloo achi mootummaa Amaaraatiin eenyu ol waan miidhamaa jiruuf akkas goonee jira. Kanaafiyyuu fedhii waan akkanaa yoo qabaatte barreessaa akka ilaalcha kiyyaatti mucayyoo sanaan illee wal quunnamsiisuu hin dandeenya. Ofii kapaasitiin keenya waan hin jirree fi nama mariyyuu namni tokko mucayyoo tokko amma tiima tokko waa'ee Yurooppii irra fookas goone because rakkoon keenya achillee mootummaan dhaga'uu waan qabuu fi tiimni kun Ameerikatti tiimni kaana wajjin jiru information Oromoo irraa fuudheetiin akkamitti geessaa jechuudha. Bakka adda addaatti asirratti namni dhaggeeffatu hedduu garagara waan ta'eef akkamitti qarqaaruu dandeetta because capacity hin qabnu akkamitti ati waa qarqaaruu dandeenya information nuuf ergitu kana maqaa callaa barreessite uummata akka gachuu hin dandeenyu uummata akka riippoortii keenya keessa gachuu hin dandeenyu kaan amma ka duratti amma deebi'ee tishaan dubbatellee advocacy irratti illee deemtanii guutanii jettan information sun absolutely barbaachisaadha. Maybe asirratti miidiyaa irratti hin maxxansinu malee torbee dabre xalaa hedduu mootummaa Ameerikaatiif galchinee jenne Torbee kanallee akkasumatti waa hedduu irratti barreessaa jirra. Koongiressii irratti akkamitti hiiringii amma kalee dabre irratti hin barreessinee jennaa mootummaa wal dhaqqabnee jennaa torbee ji'a dhufu kana keessatti Yurooppii keessatti illee waatu deemaa jira waa'ee Tigraay irrallee kana keessatti illee akka dhaqqabamu jennaa Awustiraaliyaa reef jalqabnee jennee hopfulee Oktoobarii kanarraa dhiibbaa adda addaa goonaa. So I think gahaan keessan barbaachisaadha. Dhaaba keessa wajjin dalaguuf qophiidha. Dhaabni keenya waa mallaqa qabaatee isin qotatoo hin ta'in waliin dalagnaa kan hin jedhu irratti waamichi guddaan an godhu. Booyuu iyyuu qofa otoo hin ta'in gahaa kennu godhuu qabna. Yoo gahaa kennu goone Ameerikaan maaf dubbatte jette jedhee I think har'a sa'a tokko ol haasofne natti fakkaata. Asumarra taagoolomnee jennu hedduu galatoomaa torbee dhuftu meebii keessummaa takka finnee dhufnaa. Kana if have a last word galatoomaa isiniin jechuu barbaada hedduu.
Yeah, galatoma.
Yeah. Galatoomaa hundi keessan wanta ko jechuu barbaadu sadhumaadha. Kanaan duras dhageera warra Saawudii bulatee keenya warra Saawudii irraanfattanii bulatee keenya bakka akkasii irraanfattanii kan jedhu jira. Bakka waa'ee matakkaliin kaastee egaa rakkinni bakka adda addaa gatii mootummaan acuuccaa nama keenya irratti ga'aa jiruu fi rakkinni adda addaa iddoo adda addaatiin uumamaa hunduma isaa immoo yeroo ollaa qofatu hin ta'in hundi keenya iyyuu wanta kanarratti hojjechuu qabna kan jedhu ergaa dabarsuun barbaada. Kanumadha.
Have a nice day.
Take care.